Everyone saw Verstappen win, but no one saw how he won. Behind that clean, dominant victory was a technical and psychological masterpiece, the weekend that reignited the title fight. Under the burning Texas sun, with pressure mounting and McLaren collapsing, Verstappen didn't just race. He redefined control. This is the story of what you didn't see: how Max Verstappen's precision, intelligence, and resilience turned Austin into a statement of supremacy. 63 points. That was the gap separating him from Oscar Piastri at the top of the championship standings when the weekend began. For months, people had been whispering it: maybe this is the year Max loses it. The McLarens were faster. Red Bull looked out of rhythm. Even Christian Horner admitted privately that the team had work to do. The dominance of previous seasons had been replaced by inconsistency, flashes of speed followed by weekends of confusion. But in Austin, everything changed. This was where Red Bull's upgrades finally came together. And with them, Verstappen came alive. From the very first lap of Friday practice, you could sense it. The RB21 moved differently, smoother, more stable, balanced. The new floor worked. The car was finally low, predictable, confident again. And when Verstappen came on the radio saying, "The rear feels planted," those 5 words sent a jolt through the Red Bull garage. For him, that phrase means one thing: I can push. It's not something he says lightly. It's a signal. A warning. And over the next 3 days, he would prove exactly what that meant. Sprint qualifying was his first message to the world. One flying lap in SQ3, after being blocked by traffic on his first run. One chance to deliver. No second tries, no warm-up laps, no margin for error. He crossed the line with a lap so sharp it looked mechanical, every corner exit, every brake trace perfect. When the timing screens lit up purple, it wasn't surprise, it was inevitability. A driver and a machine perfectly synchronized. "He's back," whispered one engineer in the paddock. But for Verstappen, there was no celebration. No fist pump. Just a nod, and a quiet word to Gianpiero Lambiase: "Let's fine-tune the traction out of turn 11. Because when others chase perfection, he adjusts it." Then came the sprint itself, a chaotic, brutal, 10-lap sprint through the Texas heat. Behind him, chaos erupted at turn 1. Piastri and Norris collided, Alonso was hit, debris flew. But ahead, Verstappen was already gone. He didn't win that race with pace, he won it with clarity. Every restart, every safety car, every lap he controlled with icy precision. It was his first victory in a month, but there was no release of emotion, no radio scream. Just calm. "Good job, guys. Let's keep this up." That's when you realized something had shifted. The aggression was still there, but it was focused. Matured. Weaponized. Friday morning in Austin wasn't quiet, it was intense. Mechanics moved like clockwork, the sound of air guns echoed through the paddock, and the smell of burnt rubber mixed with the dry Texan air. Inside the Red Bull garage, there was no panic, but there was something sharper: purpose. Verstappen's engineers knew that this was their weekend to turn things around. The RB21 had been a mystery for months, its performance swinging wildly from track to track. Too stiff in Suzuka. Too draggy in Qatar. Too fragile in Mexico. But in Austin, something finally clicked. The upgrades that had been frustratingly inconsistent finally came together, and Verstappen could feel it before anyone else. He rolled out of the garage for the single hour of practice that teams get on sprint weekends, and within 2 laps, he was already smiling inside the helmet. The rear of the car, which had been unpredictable all season, now stayed locked through the fast S-bends of Sector 1. The new floor, tested for the first time at full load, was finally doing its job. "The rear feels planted," he said over the radio, voice calm but firm. Those words carry weight in the Red Bull garage. When Verstappen says it's planted, it means the car has crossed from uncertainty to confidence. It means he's ready to attack. That planted feeling transformed the weekend. For months, Verstappen had been driving around problems, compensating with superhuman reflexes for a car that didn't want to obey. But in Austin, for the first time in half a season, he could just drive. His inputs became smoother, his lines tighter, his rhythm almost mathematical. The telemetry confirmed it. His throttle modulation through turns 3, 4, and 5 was cleaner than any driver on the grid, his brake release patterns nearly identical lap after lap. The car and driver were no longer fighting each other, they were communicating. Then came sprint qualifying, the first real test. 3 short sessions, barely time to breathe between them. In SQ1, Verstappen topped the timesheets easily. In SQ2, he was fastest again. But it was in SQ3 where he showed the difference between good and great. Traffic ruined his first lap, leaving him with one single chance. 1 out lap, 1 flying lap, 1 shot at pole. Every variable had to align: tire prep, brake temps, track position, wind direction. Miss one, and it's gone. He didn't miss anything. The lap was surgical, perfect trail braking into turn 1, commitment through the fast left-right complex, throttle pin through turn 10. When he crossed the line, the timing screens exploded purple. 1 minute and 32.143 seconds pole position for the sprint. Only 7/100ths faster than Lando Norris, but 7/100ths faster everywhere. That's the Verstappen difference, not one heroic corner, not one big slide, just perfection repeated 20 corners in a row. Even rival engineers admitted it afterward. One from Mercedes said privately, that lap was almost boring. There was nothing to fix. Nothing to improve. That's exactly how Verstappen likes it. When the car is an extension of him, the lap doesn't look dramatic, it looks inevitable. He doesn't fight physics, he bends it slightly, just enough to stay within its rules. After the session, he stepped out of the car, took a sip of water, and leaned against the pit wall. No shouting, no celebration. Just calm analysis. Rear traction still feels a little weak out of turn 11, he told Gianpiero Lambiase. Let's take 1% off the diff preload. That's the level he operates at. He feels things that the sensors can't even detect. And when the changes came overnight, they transformed the car from great to flawless. Saturday morning in Austin felt like the air itself was waiting to explode. The sun had barely cleared the horizon when the engines fired up, the heat already shimmering off the tarmac. 40 laps? No. This was a sprint, just 10. No strategy tricks, no long games, no safety nets. One mistake, and it was over. In this kind of format, there's no margin for patience, but Verstappen has learned to make patience his weapon. He lined up on pole, visor down, heart rate calm, hands loose on the steering wheel. When the lights went out, he didn't flinch. The Red Bull launched perfectly, biting into the asphalt with zero wheel spin. Behind him, chaos. Piastri and Norris tangled into turn 1, 2 McLarens, one disaster. Orange carbon fiber exploded into the air like confetti in the sun. Alonso got tagged in the confusion, cars scattered, and the radio waves filled with shouting. But at the front, Verstappen didn't even blink. He took a slightly wider line than usual, anticipating the slipstream wake, and by the time the others realized what was happening, he was already gone. It wasn't luck, it was prediction. He'd read the field like a chessboard before the lights even went out. The safety car was deployed before the first lap was even complete. Behind it, Verstappen managed everything: tire temperatures, brake balance, energy systems. The track was dusty, littered with debris, but he never let the car fall out of rhythm. Tires are good, rear's coming up nicely, he reported, his voice steady, no trace of stress. Gianpiero Lambiase replied with equally calm precision, the two communicating like they were speaking a language no one else understood. It's one of the most underrated aspects of Verstappen's dominance, the invisible dialogue between him and his engineer, perfectly timed, perfectly efficient. When the safety car lights went out, the entire grid knew what was coming. Verstappen's restarts are like lightning strikes, sudden, precise, unavoidable. He held the pack perfectly through the final corner, throttled down at exactly the right moment, and within 3 seconds had already opened a gap of nearly a second and a half. George Russell tried to follow, using the slipstream down the main straight, but Verstappen's traction out of turn 20 was surgical. He didn't slide, didn't twitch. It was a masterclass in grip management. By lap 3, the race was no longer about who could catch him, it was about who could survive behind him. Russell kept him honest, though. The Mercedes looked quick in clean air, and through the middle sector, the gap stabilized. Verstappen wasn't pushing flat out, he was managing. Every lap, he changed something small, a degree of brake migration, a shift in differential preload, a lift in turn 11 to harvest more energy for defense. These are micro decisions, invisible to the eye, but they define the greats. He wasn't just driving, he was calculating. 10 laps of chess at 320 km per hour. When the virtual safety car came out briefly on lap 6 for debris cleanup, Verstappen's focus never broke. He reset his tires, cooled his brakes, recharged his battery every second used. Then, on the restart, the moment Russell tried to close in, Verstappen delivered a lap that will be studied in race data rooms for years. Every apex clipped, every throttle transition clean. The RB21 glided. By the final lap, the lead had stretched again, just enough to remove all doubt. He didn't need to dominate, he needed to control, and control is what he does best.